Hey there, Braves Country. Welcome back to another episode of Braves Country Convos. I'm one half of your hosts, Jori Palmer, Senior Director of Marketing here at the Braves, joined alongside my very pregnant co-host, Lauren Saad.
Not fat, just pregnant. That's my tagline.
It's a good distinction, yeah. She really let herself go over the off-season. But yes, we are back here in our comfy plush velvet chairs here at Mr. B's Bar in the Xfinity Club. And today's guest is one we're very excited about. You know him, you love him, you see him on your TV screens. He's eating Kit Kats or really anything else we bring him. Gives you all the fun facts on this team. He is Wiley Ballard. Yay!
Thank you, Jori, Lauren. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's fun. I mean, the Kit Kat thing, I've been doing that for years. They just put it on television. Now everybody's freaked out about it, but that's kind of my nightly routine. So.
I love that. Well, thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. Happy to be with you guys.
Well, we'll just jump right into it. Where did your love for sports come from? I'm sure it started when you were just a little kid.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Where did that
no,
come
I mean,
from?
yeah, what, knee high to a duck, I guess is the Southern expression. I grew up in Atlanta. I don't come from a sports fan crazy background. I mean, my dad, is from Atlanta, grew up rooting for the Braves and the Falcons and Hawks and Georgia Tech and all of that. But for whatever reason, I was about 5 or 6. He started taking me to a few NHL hockey games, actually, the Thrashers, and enjoyed that. Went to some Georgia Tech basketball games, and then I was just kind of all in on it. I remember watching the games on TV, and every time I'd watch a game, there'd be these people there who were there every night, and I was like, those guys aren't even playing. They're just at every game. And I said, that sounds like a good recipe for me. So, honest, if you asked me the two teams I fell in love with first, it was probably the Thrashers, Georgia Tech basketball, and then the Braves were shortly after.
Did you play sports growing up?
I tried. I did.
No.
It's funny. I actually played a lot of roller hockey growing up.
Oh, yeah. The street hockey? Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we had rollerblades and all that, but it was funny. I didn't really realize that wasn't a varsity sport until I was like in 7th grade. And I was like,
Would you just
serious?
play like in the neighborhood?
No,
or
there was like a local like league or rec league or whatnot.
I had no
I grew
idea.
up like in the street. We had rollerblades.
No, we
had
did
a
that
stick.
too. But
Okay.
well, again.
When he first said roller hockey, I was like, what is he talking about? And I'm like, oh, okay.
We got the inline blades. Yeah, I mean, we won some championships down there. It was great. But I do remember being like in 7th grade and all of a sudden being like, wait a minute. Somebody should have told me there's not a varsity sport here. I might have invested my time elsewhere. So I didn't play any varsity sports, but I would if we had roller hockey, I think. So.
That's awesome.
It's funny because I feel like a lot of like little kids who are, big sports fans are paying attention like to the athletes, which I'm sure you were doing is too, paying attention to the numbers, but you were looking at the sports broadcasters, and which obviously makes sense to what you do today. What point did it become a dream, or I guess when can you remember thinking like that's something I could actually do?
I'd say 6 or 7, really.
Little.
I've always kind of been a performer, I guess. I mean, I did a lot of I did a lot of acting and those types of things in elementary school.
You were a
school,
theater
middle
kid
school.
too?
I mean, look, I'm not going to say I wasn't a theater kid. Quite honestly, I auditioned for a lot of things. I didn't get them. So I was a theater kid who didn't get the opportunity.
Trying to be a theater kid?
Yeah, I was like the aspiring theater kid. But at the end of the day, I kind of knew like I love sports too much to not be around that. But I do think there's an element of performance involved in sports broadcasting. And I always felt like growing up watching the games, whether it was, Skip and Pete, or it was, John Shambi, obviously, when I was coming up in middle school and high school, like I looked at those guys and thought two things. One, they look like they're having a lot of fun. And two, they bring a lot of joy to a lot of people. And that was kind of the most appealing, part of this profession for me is I have something I really enjoy and I get to share it with a lot of people and hopefully enhance the viewership experience. I mean, that's the goal, right? I mean, you don't want to take away from the game, you want to add to it. So I really appreciated the broadcasters I watched growing up. They made me enjoy Braves baseball more, and I hope I'm able to do some of the same.
So I have a question for both of you because my sister-in-law has done a lot of sports reporting for ESPN and all sorts of things. And she would, even like to this day, sometimes we'll be like watching a football game and she'll put it on mute when the reporter is like asking the coach a question because she's walking through like, what would I ask him? Did y'all ever do that growing up? Like when you became serious about this?
Absolutely. I mean, I won't mute it like that, but I'm hyper aware of what questions are asked, what I think should be asked, or if I'm like, man, I didn't even think of that. That was a good question. And I'm kind of the same way with play-by-play announcers as well. Verb choices, when they're talking, when they're not talking. I mean, I think it's somewhat, when you're in an industry like that, you almost can't watch it without doing that, in my opinion. Anyway.
Do you agree?
When I was when I was a student, like I would have my notes app out and like write down when I was still trying to like learn how to write the questions. And to this day, if, we're watching a football game and my husband starts talking to me and I hear the female voice, I'm like, stop it. I want to hear this report. I want her to know someone out there. Because I feel like they can, the sideline stories can sometimes get lost.
100%.
And especially when you're not on camera a lot, especially with football and the game so fast. I'm like, hold on. I want to listen to this.
I love that. That's cool.
One of my biggest pet peeves when watching a game with people is like something will happen, like what's going on? What's happening? What's the rule on that? Like what I think you can, like they'll start telling what I'm like, the announcers are literally there to
just
give you this
listen.
information. Just
Listen.
be quiet for 2 seconds.
Yes.
Like
Turn
I'll explain
up.
it.
Read the subtitles.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, not that we all don't want to mute some announcers sometimes, but I'm like, they're trying to give the information. Just everybody be quiet for 2 seconds.
That's funny.
Now, Wiley, with you having this big dream so young, I totally agree with you in which sports broadcasting is definitely like performing. Like growing up, I wanted to be like a pop star, like a movie star, an actress. And then it eventually evolved to, okay, I want to maybe do news or sports. And I think my parents saw that as like, okay, well, this is a lot more realistic than wanting to be a movie star. So they were all super supportive, all about it. What did your parents first think of this dream?
I mean, my dad.
Because it kind of sounds crazy
No,
when
it
your
does.
kid's like, I want to be on TV. And they're like, yeah, okay.
100%. My dad was kind of the same way with, when he tells a story when he was about 6 or 7 years old, he wanted to be a doctor. And that's kind of what he did. And so I think he recognized something similar there as sort of feeling like you had a calling at a young age. And my parents were extremely supportive to my face. I don't know. I mean, they might have
what
had
they talked about behind closed doors.
100%.
Our
I mean,
crazy
my
son,
dad and I
Wiley.
have talked about it being like, at some point I was preparing to have all right, man, you threw your hat in the ring, you tried hard, it's time to try something real, or more doable. But no, they were extremely supportive. And I think, the biggest key for me, obviously I went to Georgia Tech. I had a degree in finance. So, I mean, I had some plans as far as what it might look like if I ever decided not to pursue it. But my whole goal was to give myself as long a runway as possible. I think there's a lot of time pressure, especially when you get out of college, of like, I got to make this happen in 3 years, or I got to go get, something else. And so I tried to find a way to where I was still, generating enough income to, pay my rent and, feed myself and those things without feeling like there was an expiration date on, like, if it doesn't happen in the next 36 months, I got to be out. So I think that to me was, if there's one thing I did right, I think I felt like I gave myself enough time for it to unfold, because all this stuff never happens as soon as you want it to, which I think everybody can relate to, whether that's professional, personal, all those things. So
that reminds me of our chat with Mike McDonald, the Seattle Seahawks head coach, when he was like, yeah, my parents let me do it, and you're young enough that why not at least try it for a few years?
Yep.
Have a backup plan if you need one, but like, why not? Like now, that's the time when you're in high school trying to do all this stuff in college, like put yourself out there as much as you can and give it a shot at least. So
and that's what I tell everyone who's coming out of college, like, go do it. Go do it now, because you're not going to want to do it when you get a little bit older. Life gets in the way. You might meet somebody, like, and not to say it couldn't still work out, but it would have been much easier to do it when you were 22 versus when you're 28. So go out there, do the thing, do it when it's hard and uncomfortable, because that's the easiest time to do it.
Yeah. And so you're an Atlanta kid.
Yeah.
Stayed in the city for school at Georgia Tech, which does not have a journalism degree. Lauren informed me. So how was your thought process in terms of, I'm going to go to Georgia Tech and pursue a career in broadcasting?
Well, I mean, quite honestly, I went to a lot of their games growing up, baseball included, and I love baseball. That was my favorite sport. That's what I wanted to be a part of. And I started asking the radio guy, saying, 'cause he was a student at Tech, and I was kind of asking, like, hey, who calls the games, or how did you get this job? He looked at me and said, they're desperate. They can't find anybody who wants to do it, which is wild when you think about it. But on the flip side, a lot of people go to Georgia Tech to do engineering and a lot of really complicated and difficult stuff. They don't have a lot of time to waste their time talking about baseball on the radio. So I was kind of like, all right, well, why don't I take advantage of all those opportunities? Nobody wants to do it. Because that was the big question I had, I think, as I was moving through high school, was, do I want to go somewhere where I can get a journalism degree, or should I go chase reps? And the conversations I had, I remember Dave Cohen with Georgia State, he's their play-by-play guy, and talking to Wes Durham as well, who was at Tech at the time, asking them, like, what would you guys do? And they said, well, if you really want to do play-by-play, or live game coverage, and that's it. Like, you don't want to be a beat writer, you don't want to do news, you don't want to do sports talk, like none of that's on your radar, then I'd go get the reps. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges, or at least historically is one of the biggest challenges when you're trying to break into this, is, well, how do you get that first opportunity, or the first few opportunities? And so I felt like Tech had those. And yeah, like I said, it was just, there were not a lot of people, on campus who wanted to do what I wanted to do. And therefore, I got a lot of opportunities. I know one of the biggest breaks I got was our men's basketball sports information director is a guy named Mike Stamus. He's been one of the official scorers with the Braves since, I think, 98, I think. Anyway, Braves media relations reached out to him saying, do you have any students who are interested in working in the press box? And I was a freshman in college, and he asked me. I said, absolutely. So I was just the Braves cashier in the press box. So essentially the way I describe it is, Chip Carey would, if he wanted a hot dog, he'd come up to me and give me $4, and he'd get his hot dog. And after 4 or 5 times of doing that, he'd kind of go, so what's your story? Where are you from? And that was kind of a chance to get to ask him how he got to where he got to. Same for Ben Ingram, Jim Powell, Joe Simpson. I mean, obviously everybody's got a different route, and Kevin McAlpin's another one. I mean, I'm sure Tom Hart, when he was doing sideline, all those guys. And it was the same for visiting teams too. I think that was a really underrated capacity. I had a chance to, get to know people who were, whether it be Aaron Goldsmith in Seattle, or Jeff Levering in Milwaukee. I can list so many names. Dave Fleming in San Francisco, and they would come through Atlanta. It was a chance for me to, get to know them. And so I did that for about 4 years throughout all of college. And again, it was a nothing job. I mean, I was literally just exchanging, giving 5s back for 10s or whatnot. But the way I described it is my customers were people who I wanted to pursue, their industry. And so I think that, a lot of this, it's like show business, who right? I mean, can you find a way to get in the door? And I think, I'm not sure anybody's had the exact track that I've had, but I think that's true for everybody in the industry, that you found a way to, get your foot in this way or meet somebody that way. And I think, I'm a big believer in, if you have something you want to do, you kind of got to put out in the universe. And I think I remember Beth Marshall, who obviously worked here for a long time. She was the one who got me to work when a job opened up in production on the television side with Gretchen. And she was the one, she knew me because I'd asked to go to lunch and pick her brain on stuff. So, again, I've never really formally applied for a job as much as I've just tried to have, conversations, express interest, and, let people know this is what I want to do. And, a lot of people say you got to be in the right place at the right time. My strategy was, I'm going to get to the right place and then sort of sit tight until it's the right time. So that's kind of been
that.
I'm not sure if I had that plan when I started it, but looking back, that's what happened.
That's what happened.
So yeah, I think it worked out well for me.
Well, I want to sing your praises there, because I feel like you created your own path. You didn't just do what everybody else was doing. I was telling Jori, like, you didn't go to Syracuse or any of like the big name schools there. Like, you truly forged your own path, and it's obviously a huge reason of why you're so successful today. So anybody listening to this who wants to get into sports broadcasting, like, you don't have to follow the typical route. Yeah. And for you to be able to, be working in your home market, especially with it being Atlanta, one of the hardest markets to make it in, like, that's just so huge, and such all of your story and the decisions that you made.
Yeah, look, I'd be lying if I felt like, I know this is how I'm going to work out exactly perfectly. You try and make the best decision for, your professional circumstances, your life circumstances. And, going back to Syracuse, Northwestern, and Maryland, I got a lot of reverence, for those programs. And I got a lot of friends who went there and who have had tremendous careers. And look, I'll be the first one to tell you, like, one of the biggest disadvantages of not going to school like that is networking. And so I was told that straight up. I said, you're going to get more reps, but you're going to have to do a better job of finding a way to meet people. And for me, the Braves cashier job was critical in the press box. That was kind of my way to, we didn't have a bunch of famous, Mike Tiricos or, Jason Benetti's, from Syracuse coming back to campus to talk to us. We had a few astronauts come by, Georgia Tech, but I was like, that's really cool.
I can tell you all about finance and engineering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But they weren't doing a lot of sports broadcasting. So again, like, look, there's pros and cons for everything. And for me, I really tried to prioritize getting reps, and then I would make up for whatever, limitations I felt like from a networking standpoint. And the other big piece of it too is, like, being in Atlanta was massive. Critical. And I didn't have a huge desire to go to a college town personally. But I think looking back on it, like I wasn't even that much of a factor when I chose Tech. I chose it for the baseball program, but looking back, like having 3 major league teams here, Final Four was here when I was a freshman, Super Bowl hosting. I mean, we're hosting a World Cup semifinal. So like many other industries, sports is there's a lot going on in Atlanta.
Yeah. Lauren, do you remember this? This had to be like this time last year, but when we were talking about having Wiley on, and I was like, yeah, I didn't know he went to Tech. And you're like, yeah. And I was like, I just didn't know he played baseball for Tech. And you go, what? You're like,
oh God, did I laugh?
And I was like, did he
No,
not?
that's what my reaction,
I go, did he not play baseball? And you're like, no, he's like the play-by-play guy. So for like a month, I thought you were a D1 athlete.
Which is really astounding because I wasn't even a varsity athlete. Like I mean,
say, Jori, that's a crazy compliment. That's all.
Oh no, I'm not upset about it. I mean, I remember 2 years ago, Frank Core, we're doing the game at like I think it was opening night or at least opening homestand, and I was telling some story about somebody who was like, he was a, all-star center and quarterback and, ran track and all that. And, so I don't even know who it was, but he was like, man, that guy's, Frank, give back to Frenchie. And Frank's like, man, that guy's a heck of an athlete in high school, man. Was that 4 varsity? Wiley, did you ever win a varsity or earn a varsity letter? And I said, nope. And he's like, man, I figured. So the best part was again, didn't play any varsity sports, didn't play baseball at a high level, but the baseball coach at my high school, I can't say my high school baseball coach, but the baseball coach at my high school, after Frank Core just roasted me on TV for being a terrible athlete, sent me a varsity baseball letter and said, we're proud of you. So I got one now.
Wait,
that's awesome.
You have to have that frame somewhere. That's
I've got
amazing.
it on display. It's not framed, but I've got it on display. And he's like, we're proud of you. And I was like, I just got a sympathy varsity letter. That's pretty cool.
But hey, you can talk about sports.
Yeah, I guess.
You can talk about it.
Did you ever like keep the book for the high school team or like help out like that?
I kept the book at a lot of baseball games, but I never did it for my high school. I was too busy going down to Georgia Tech watching their games and Braves games. I mean, I've still got what was really cool last year is when Charlie Morton made his final start, I had the scorebook. I kept score the night he made his major league debut in Anaheim, and like I had it, so I showed it to him.
Wow, that's cool.
Very full circle. So I mean,
you said you showed it to him.
Yeah.
What was his reaction like?
I mean, that guy's a thoughtful guy. There was like a long pause. He's like, "That's very full circle." And I was like, "Sweet,
that sounds very Charlie Morton."
Yeah. So I mean, we had a long conversation afterwards. He knows Charlie's got a lot of thoughts on things, but he's a big believer in baseball and generations and all these types of things. So it was probably a lot cooler for me than it was for him. But yeah, so I never did it for my high school team, but I was a huge stat guy. And again, I've got like 7 or 8 like Sports Authority scorebooks of like Braves
Sports Authority.
baseball.
That's a great
I know it's
throwback.
a throwback, right?
Yeah.
So no, we'd go buy those and I loved, like, I still do a lot of Sudoku. I love crossword. I love puzzles. And to me, like, that was kind of what suddenly baseball made more sense to me when I kind of looked at it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a giant grid. And you're like, where are the 27 outs? Where, runs versus left on base and, innings pitched and all these moving pieces. I don't come from a very baseball crazy family. Like, my dad roots for the Braves. My mom's first ever Braves game was Sid Bream in 92.
Wow.
And they had just gotten married. She'd never been to a game. My dad was like, hey, let's go to the game. All right, cool. And then they're driving home, and my mom is just like, Perry, I have never been to such an exciting event. I had no idea baseball was so great. And I was like, my dad's like, I maybe should have taken somebody else. But
I had a friend say to me the other day, she was like, yeah, I went to like game 5 of the World Series and it was just so awesome. But like, why can't every game be like that? And I'm like,
I know.
Because like you just can't. I'm like I can't even get into this with you right now. Like this isn't even worth a conversation. Like I can't even go that far with you.
Yeah, you're like there's 81 of these games we play here, and then there's 81 more that are played. Like this isn't the NFL where there's one game a week. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's funny. I learned how to keep the book in high school because our softball coach was the same as our baseball coach, same guy. And I would just go to baseball games, and he'd be like, "Hey, come here! Like, if you're gonna come, can you just like keep score?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So like, there was not Google that you could just YouTube how to. So like, somebody taught me. I was like, "Okay, like this is cool. I'm going." And then like, the bases would be loaded, and someone would get a double somewhere, and you got to go back to all these other frames,
Yes,
and like, who ended up where,
yes,
and where did the
yes,
ball go?
yes.
And then if there's like an overthrow or an error, and I was like, this is incredibly
Oh, yeah,
stressful. And
yeah.
then by the time I got it, like we're 2 batters later, and that you're trying to play catch up.
100%.
So I've always had like a very strong appreciation from people who keep the scorebook, because like it is not for the faint of heart.
Well, I'll say this: when I was first starting out, my biggest ally was TiVo. If we pause it,
Oh,
I'd be like, all right, hold on, let me make sure I knew what happened.
Rewind,
So 100%, yeah. So, yeah, I got to give TiVo an assist on that. Of course, TiVo's long gone, but.
Well, I know you did a lot with Georgia Tech, but take us through specifically with the Braves. How do you go from cafeteria cashier guy to holding the microphone on TV?
Yeah, so I'll give my Braves journey in one set, but just keep in mind I'm doing a lot of on-air work outside of the Braves. That makes sense. So like as I'm doing all this other stuff that's not broadcast related, I'm doing a ton outside of the Braves broadcasting related. So, and to me it was kind of like, all right, I need to make sure I've got my craft where I want it to, so if any opportunity ever opened up, I'd be ready to go. So with that said, I graduated high school in 2012, started working as the Braves press box attendant cashier in 2013, did that for 13, 14, 15, didn't do anything in 16, or didn't work, that job went away in 16, and then moved to the new ballpark in 17. So 16, I didn't do anything official. 17, I was a game day intern for media relations office. 18, 19, I was one of the inputters for MLB.com. So like if you follow the game on your game day app, and it's like, a ball here, or, swing and a miss, foul tip, ground ball to I was the one who's I wouldn't deciding whether it was a hit or an error, but I sat right next to Moose, Mike Stamus, or Richard Muster, the two scorers, and they would say, all right, it's a base hit. I input base hit. So
I didn't realize that happened here. For some reason, I always thought there's just someone in New York in a control room somewhere.
No,
okay.
that, I mean, again, who knows? I think the NFL's gone more to that model, because I was actually on the stat crew for the Falcons for like 6 years, I think. And that was all local too, but I think more and more it's been outsourced remotely. I mean, with the way television is now, you can see everything you need to see. But no, that happens right in the press box, and I just sit next to him, and he'd say base hit or error, and I'd put it in, and so did that for 2 years in 18 and 19. And like I mentioned, I mean, I owe I don't know, like 100 people in this organization a lot of credit over the years, but Beth Marshall was one in particular where, I sat down with her and had a chance to pick her brain about her career, and just said, hey, if anything comes across your desk, let me know. I'd love to be involved. And then about 2 months later, it's 2020, and before everything exploded, she's like, hey, they need a graphics producer in the television truck. That'd be a good fit. And so that was kind of how I got into television. Did that from 2020 to 2023 for 4 years, and then in
And this whole time, are you telling the TV people like, yeah, by the way, like here's my reel, like I do this stuff too?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look,
you made it very obvious.
I'll never forget. Like I'll never forget when I was hired by Fox, I guess Fox Sports at the time. I told them, hey, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. You need to know that. However, you hired me to do this job, and so I would really try and bring it up maybe at before the season, after the season. In the season, you're working 90, 100 games. Like nobody wants to deal with somebody who's hired to do one job and have them just telling, hey, I'd actually rather do that job. So, I think for me, it's been a mix of trying to express what my long-term goals are, but then make an impression. Like, if you hire me the press box cashier, I'm going to be the best press box cashier you've ever had. Right. And be honest with you, like, I think like the first break that kind of happened on the television side for me on air was, they had Bally had an ACC football package, and I'd done some ACC football like sideline work for Georgia Tech's radio network, and suddenly they had a need for a sideline reporter on their telecast, and I think it was like, again, last minute, like, you know what, we got this kid Wiley, he's done sideline, he's really good at graphics, what the heck, let's throw him out there, see what happens. And again, I think as much as like my reel or whatnot helped, I think the fact that I was punctual and knew how to spell everybody's name and, was a good teammate is probably the biggest factor as any for getting that opportunity. And then, something similar happened before 2024 where they had a need for that first month before Kelly and Ashley could get off hockey and basketball to come do it. And they said, hey, you want to do it? I said, I do. So did that for the first month of 2024. And, obviously in 25 got a chance to do the full-time gig. And it's been, I mean, I really struggle to articulate how special and just how surreal the whole thing is. I mean, I'm from Atlanta, and have a reverence for Braves television. And I mean, I can tell you right now, I mean, there were times, specifically through adolescence that, the best part of my day was turning on the Braves game at 7. And so I really think of, myself as a teenager as somebody who really leaned pretty heavily on having that nightly boost emotionally, as there was some stuff going on outside of, baseball that was really tough. I mean, I don't know about your experience. 13, 14, 15 were tough years for your boy.
I even feel that way right now. I'm like, thank God, like, football's over. I'm like, babe, what are we doing tonight? There's nothing to watch on TV. The Braves are playing. Like, we get to watch the pregame show. And Wiley, sorry to make you go through your whole resume, but like, I just want to do your career justice. And like, you didn't just snap your fingers and like, now you get to be the sideline reporter. Like, no, you've been working for this organization for, God, like 12 years?
Yeah.
By doing the mathing? Like,
no, I mean, and I'll say this too. Like, I think the thing that kept me going more than anything was I really love baseball. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I had like roles I wanted to be in that were larger than the one I was in, but I was also like, this is, can I say freaking sweet?
It's fun.
Yeah,
Bleeping.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I just, I remember I was working the press box cashier the night when Carlos Gomez and Brian McCann got into it like 10 years ago. And I was like,
great.
whoa, this is amazing. Oh my gosh. And then having, I remember Smoltz and Glavine coming in, they were calling games, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So, I just tell, like, the one thing I could always come back to, like, if I got frustrated by, something wasn't happening fast enough, or, I was just like, I love baseball. And like, I'm just really psyched to be here. And I think that mindset, I mean, really helped me kind of just be like, there's nothing else I want to do. So let's go watch the baseball game.
Well, you gave a really good piece of advice again. And it's something that I tell folks as well is you don't necessarily start in an organization where you want to end up, but a lot of people just try and get their foot in the door, and then they set their sights on what's next without really focusing on doing the job they were hired for.
Yeah.
I'm like, you've got to keep your head down and prove to me that you can do your job well. Because if you can't and you're just distracted trying to get the next thing, like, that is very evident. And that shows. And no one wants to hire, even internally. Like, people can have reputations like, oh, they're just trying to get a job. They're go on to the next thing. And it's like, you've got to really excel at what you were hired to do. And just see it as a bigger picture of like, eventually these will open doors. I can build relationships in the meantime. But if you're super aggressive, you're not focused, you're not even doing that good of a job, like, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So that's really good advice.
Yeah. I mean, there's two examples I think of all the time. One's Greg Brown with the Pirates. He's been their TV radio guy since then. I got to go. I don't want to date him, but like mid-90s maybe. He started as a mascot, when he was, I think, in college, and then went and did minor league baseball for 10 years and came back. I mean, that's a great one. And then, like, in the more near sphere, Franco Garcia is my favorite one, because he was was a Home Depot tool. Like, that was his first gig, he was running the tool race. And
wait, I didn't know that
isn't that incredible?
Franco.
Oh, yeah.
So,
he was a tool?
Yeah, 100%.
He started from the bottom, now he's here.
What's going on with the blonde hair? Can we interject that for a second? What's going on with the blonde hair?
Franco?
Yeah.
Oh, Puerto Rico. The Puerto Rico World Baseball Classic team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who was that bet with?
I think the entire team was like, hey, if you're with the team, you gotta, diet.
Okay.
And
you got to fit in,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Back to what you were saying.
No,
I was like, wait, I've been
I'd
seeing
love to
that, and
talk
I
about
haven't had a
Franco's
chance to talk to him about it.
Yeah,
And
100%.
clearly there's a story there. Yeah.
You're not just blonde for no reason.
No, it was not it wasn't one of those things where you said, this is going to look great. But and look, you know what, though? Like, here's the thing with Franco. Like, and I learned a lot from watching him go, like, phenomenal teammate, good attitude, like, and that's the reason I think he's been such a valued part of the organization.
And it's a sports. We got to have fun with
100%.
it.
I mean, again, I first had the idea of wanting to get into sports broadcasting when I was 6 or 7, but I do remember it being like reinforced. Like, my dad was a cancer doctor. Like, that's some pretty high stakes stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like,
keeps things in a perspective.
And I was like, I might go hang out. Love what you're doing. You're making a huge impact, saving lives here. And I was like, that is too high stakes. I'm going to just go hang out at the baseball game.
I think I say it every day. Like, I'm not saving a life today.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
If I mess up, it's all fine.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of
it's
pressure.
so true. Well, so we have had your boss, Gretchen, producer Gretchen, on the show. A blooper.
Blooper's been passing himself as my boss recently.
That's right. He would love to be.
Yeah.
It would love to be. Excuse me.
Wait, you say it?
He's
Yeah.
Is he a he? Is he a she? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want him.
He's a he.
That's true. We don't know.
He doesn't wear. It doesn't wear pants.
There's
Yeah.
nothing
So,
going on.
no one knows.
Yeah, there's no rules.
Kind of like my baby
Anyways,
right now.
Yeah. It's an
We
it.
don't know what
We
it
don't
is.
know.
It's
We could
it.
call it blooper. Let's not.
That's awesome.
Where was it? Gretchen,
Yes.
lovely lady. She sung your praises a little bit in her episode, and so I have an answer to this question, but I would love to know what you think sets you apart as a broadcaster in an industry where everybody is kind of vying for those roles.
Boy, that's a good question. I mean,
Do you have to do performance reviews? Are you ever like this? This
oh yeah,
is
no,
what
we
I
got a
crushed
rubric
this
and
year.
everything.
Yeah.
No, we don't. No. I guess if I always felt like one of the and again I go back to one of the reasons I kind of stuck with it so long is I think I really trying on a daily basis for focus on I love baseball. I love Atlanta. I love the Braves. These are the things in my life that meant the most, still mean the most to me. It meant the most to me when I was growing up, and I had such, again, reverence for them, and I feel like I owe it. You can say owe it to Braves Country, owe it to the history of the broadcast, and those things to me are at least they're real. Don't get me wrong, but it's a little hard to make that tangible. I just kind of go back and think of think of myself at 13 and just I kind of said earlier, what Braves baseball meant to me from an emotional support standpoint. Roller hockey was winding down. I'm 13 years old and I'm trying to find what I want to do.
Find your way.
What's my identity? And I remember Braves baseball again, like I said, was a really big boost for me. And So I guess that's not really the question you asked. I guess what I'm saying is I think I am as passionate about baseball specifically as anybody in the industry. I just I love it. And I the way I've kind of described it, and this is gonna again, you want to talk about somebody who went to Georgia Tech and is a nerd. But I hate to tell you, I really enjoyed a lot of high school classes junior, senior year, whether it be biology or English or history or social studies or again, I always felt like any class you take in high school, there's a baseball angle on it. As in, if we're talking biology, biomechanics and nutrition and those things. And then if you're talking English and Shakespeare, okay, there's heroes, there's villains, there's a theatrical element to baseball, history, obviously there's not just guys like Babe Ruth and Ted Williams, but the history that baseball shares with the country. I mean, I know we're recording this on Jackie Robinson Day and the role baseball played and developed in the United States and again, social norms and how do we, advance, as a society, as a country, as a species. And, I mean, we can start talking about physics,
Wiley, you're the coolest nerd ever. I always knew you had this side to you, but I didn't know how deep it ran.
No, I go back to I just some of all I mean, maybe this was maybe my teachers wouldn't be happy to hear this, but anytime I was in those classes, I was always thinking how does this relate to baseball? And I felt like I could always that's
so
baseball.
Cool.
Again, I was always better. Obviously math's obvious, stats, on base percentage, that type of stuff, but government, you've got the commissioner and you got,
True.
You need to have a whole series or sideline, every game that you do sidelines for, have something real, exactly what you're talking about right now, but relate it back to.
Oh, again, I think baseball's the intersection of everything, at least in my head. Maybe I'm crazy. I am crazy.
No,
but,
I like it.
Yeah,
it's cool.
That to me always
you got
gave
me thinking now.
Yeah, that to me was always what kind of separated baseball from other sports for me was just this. Literally over 100 years of history in this country,
it's
baseball's
in the
been
fabric of our
100%,
country, woven deeply.
So that's always meant a lot to me. And then I also think the daily nature of it is very
it's very unique.
Human, And again, I love football as much as the next guy, but I've always felt like football is kind of you're basically teasing this. Clash of the Titans, universe, defining battle over the just this, the hype is just so much. And that's part of the fun. I get that, but I don't feel like in our lives, at least in my life, at least, like you don't wake up and say, all right, today's the day I'm going to meet my, my wife or my husband, or today's the day, I'm going to, meet this person who's going to change my professional trajectory. And I kind of feel like baseball is the same way in that, like, it's not like, I'm trying to think of an example, like Roy Halladay woke up and said, I'm throwing a perfect game today. It just kind of happened. Like, it's just, you have no idea when you wake up that morning, like, this is going to be
you
a
can't
no-hitter.
really predict the storylines.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Or like, Eugenie, Suarez hitting the 4 homers, and it was against us. But like, there's these like life-defining days for us, and like more, there's a few, like your wedding day, you're going to know it's big, but in my opinion, like the biggest days in our lives, like you wake up and don't really know that it's
on an ordinary Tuesday.
You know what I'm saying?
Like on an ordinary, nothing was special about
like,
the day.
You don't wake up thinking like maybe Walt Weiss is going to form tackle someone to the ground.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
but it happens.
100%. And I know like it's an old, you go to a baseball game, you might see something you've never seen before. But I that's always resonated with me, and I felt like baseball is a better, proxy for like the human experience than like football, where it's like it's the clash of the gods. And it's like, well, I mean, normally I'm just Monday through Friday working 9 to 5. Like my life's it's fun, like that's why we like it. But I've always really liked the idea that baseball is similar to the day-to-day experience for your average American.
Well, I think one thing that you do well, and Gretchen kind of touched on it too, is striking a really good balance of that passion and that professionalism with like a little bit of a goofy, irreverent side, where again, like you're not in Ukraine as David Muir reporting on the front lines. We're talking about baseball, like a great unifier of people. And I think you do such a good job of kind of balancing that. We're like, we know Wiley knows his stuff. Like Gretchen kind of said, like you come to her with ideas of like, here's what I want to report on, before the game starts, where I've also heard other people say they don't like that. They'd rather be at the desk and like having to come up with the facts and the stats. And so I think, could you touch on how you kind of allow your personality to shine? Because I think that's what makes you, and Brandon and CJ, I would put them both in that camp of you're so fun to watch. Like that's why people want to turn on the TV at 6:30 and see the pregame show and have it lead in, because like Brandon and CJ, like Lord knows what they'll do up in the booth or say. They're going to be on top of the game, but they're also going to have fun with it. And you are the same way down on the field, even when you're on road trips, traipsing down Miami Beach or whatever, like just talk about kind of that balance.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the baseball part comes really easy. Based on what we talked about, like I'm constantly thinking about baseball, so that just kind of happens naturally. The personality side, I think I've been like that since I was, 4 years old. I remember my mom and I were having a conversation. I think it was actually this past off season, and we were talking about again some of my the goofiness, the kind of fun-loving stuff. Like I think my mom's gotten a kick out of like a lot more people getting to see that side of me because she's seen it since I was like born. And so and I asked her, I was like, when did you realize like that wasn't going to be like a childhood phase, but more like a life defining attribute? And she was like,
trait.
Yeah. And she said, Christmas, when you were 25, you were acting a little bit preposterous, like just goofy at the Christmas dinner table. And I'm looking at your father and I'm like, he's 25 and he's
never growing out of it.
This is who he's going to be, isn't it? This isn't just
this
like
isn't a phase.
I know, she had like a
phase,
date.
Mom.
She was like, oh, Christmas 2019. I was like, wow, this is who he is.
She really had a specific.
That's what I'm saying.
That's awesome.
Like, wow. So, again, I think the biggest thing for that is it's authentic, right? And I think that's anybody, who tries to do something, whether you're performing on stage or you're broadcasting sports, I think you try to be authentic. And I think it's easier when you're actually just yourself instead of playing a different character, but that's what makes actors so good. So I also think, like, as much as I love baseball, like there was a time where I was like, what if I like wanted to go be in a front office or try and be like Alex Anthopoulos or trying to or do I
could see it.
beat writer or something? And I the conversation I had with myself when I was like 14 or 15 was like, I love that stuff, I do. But like if I was doing a little self-scouting, I was like, I think you could be fine as a baseball analyst executive. I don't think but I was like, your skill set, like between zest for life, personality, like this lines up more with like what's your strengths, if that makes sense. Like, and so I kind of was like, I think that's where I could have a larger impact is in this role. And not to mention, selfishly, it's nice not to have your job success dictated by wins and losses specifically, because let me tell you, that's a tough seat. Like, it's funny, like there's pressure that comes with, what we do, on the air, and you want to do it justice and, all those things. But like, I have a lot of respect for people whose, necks are on the line on a given night or a given season with the outcomes, because the longer you spend around sports in general, but particularly baseball, the amount of stuff that's out of those guys' control and you're just kind of having to live and die with it is a lot. So this has been a winding tangent of an answer, but no, I think I'm in this because I love the baseball. But I also think, like a lot of Braves country, it's not, I don't want somebody to sit there and say they have to be like an extraordinary baseball nerd to enjoy our telecast. Like, I think you used the word unifier earlier, and I think, look, it's nice to learn about baseball, but ultimately, like on a nightly basis, the reason Braves country comes together is to laugh and share stories and, hopefully, get a chuckle out of somebody eating a lot of candy bars. So, and I think Brandon and I talked about it the other day, like, that's what people remember, like that's what's most important. I think we're selling, entertainment and community. And, I think to, my closest friends, like, we don't talk about, like, remember that time we took that test in college? It's like, no, you remember that time that, we got won the trivia contest and got a bunch of free soda?
Yeah.
So,
soda?
Yeah,
definitely
exactly.
not beer.
No,
Wasn't
yeah.
beer.
The joke, honestly, the joke is I actually don't even drink that much. I drink a lot of soda. Like, Brandon crushes me on there, like, oh, Mr. Sprite. So yeah, no, it's
You
Yeah.
are,
Big
you are
Shirley
25-year-old still.
I'm maybe 12. So,
I'm a Shirley Temple girl these
yeah.
days.
Oh, big time.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Guys,
Hits.
hits.
Grenadine. Who needs, just give me a big bottle of grenadine. No.
No, I think it's easy for people to sit and look at your career and be like, oh my gosh, like he's made it, which you totally have. But your overall goal is to do play-by-play,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
That is like the 100% dream.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of balance that? Like you were saying, it's like being really good at the job that you were hired to do and still knowing like, okay, there's still some more room to grow and the job's not done yet.
Look, I mean, I look at guys like Ben and Brandon. I'll never forget meeting Ben for the first time. He was the pre- and post-game host on the Braves radio network, and he did that job for 9 seasons.
Long time, yeah.
And he, like, you want to talk about somebody who just was so reliable every day, consistent, showed up, the consummate professional. And I feel like I learned a lot about, like, it's easy to say you want to do this, but then, like, to wake up every day and do what you're asked to do. He just set a phenomenal example for me. And I think it's for a lot of people. But as somebody who saw it up close and personal, the way he went around his business really, made an impact on me. And Brandon's the same way. And so here's the other thing too, like, who knows how things play out, but, I don't think Ben and Brandon are going anywhere anytime soon. And I don't want them to either. Because again, like, A, like on a personal level, both those guys meant a lot to me. And B, I think they're two of the best baseball broadcasters in the entire league. And so, there's a potential for me one day, maybe I go somewhere else and get a chance to do some more play-by-play. With that in mind, like, I'm not trying to rush out of here. Like, this is my, like, I get to, my dad lives here. I'm covering the team I grew up rooting for. My entire, like, again, high school, college, like, community is all in Atlanta. Like, this is such a unbelievable chapter in my life that I'm not out here trying to, like, rush out of it. You know what I'm saying? So, we'll see how things unfold. But I woke up working in, feeling like I was pinching myself being the Braves press box cashier for 5 years. So, like, getting to do this job, again, I'm in no rush. I think, I just enjoy it so much.
You're
It's
really
ridiculous.
enjoying
It's
the journey.
Like, it's
That's
I'm
great.
kind of embarrassed
It's
Live
about
in
so
it.
the
cool.
present.
No,
Yeah.
I love it. It's like it's so inspiring and it's really cool.
Yeah.
it's very evident, like just
Yeah.
hearing you talk about it, just how
Yeah.
passionate you are,
No,
and
I
how
just-
much you're enjoying everything.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I try to, like, not talk about it because I think it's just like, all right, dude, we get it. Cool. You like your job. Good for you. Like, I try not to be obnoxious about it, but no, I can't even talk about it. It's so exciting and fun.
Well,
So,
let's switch gears and talk about this team.
yes.
Because we are about to wrap up our second homestand as of this filming. We've got our first big road trip under our belt. So what do you think, like, at this point in time in the season, are kind of the storylines that you're watching with this team?
I mean, the first one
There's
that
a lot
jumps
to
out,
like.
no doubt. I mean, I think Drake Baldwin, and look, I'll be honest with you. I remember talking to Snit and Walt at the end of last year, and it's this idea of, like, is he going to be able to deliver again like he did this year and all these things? And they both made the point of, like, this isn't, 1985 where it takes a while for word to get around. Like, he's pretty much seen all the adjustments that major league teams are going to make against him. And I'm not saying like it's still hard to hit a baseball and hard to adjust and things, but there's nothing. I don't think there's any more surprises for him at Major League Baseball. And the fact that he continues to produce at this level, I mean, the one thing I don't think we talk about enough with him is like guys will make really good pitches on him with 2 strikes and he just spoils them. Like that's half the battle being a hitter in Major League Baseball is finding a way to survive really good pitchers' pitches and hope they make a mistake on the next one. And I think Drake is as good as anybody, certainly on the team, maybe in the league at that. So Drake's a huge story. The way they have pitched so far, I think you got to give Alex Anthopoulos a lot of credit. I think, obviously when Spencer and Hurston get hurt, and then, even when Strider, tweaks the oblique, and when Joey Wentz goes down with the ACL and AJ is still coming back from Tommy John, I think there was kind of this feeling of like, they need to sign anybody who's like ever made a Major League Baseball start. And I think Alex had a lot of firm belief in the depth of the organization and guys like Bryce Elder and Grant Holmes and, Ronaldo Lopez coming back. And I think to this point, he's been proven right that, the starting pitching it's not only has not been a problem, it's been a strength. So I think that's a big story. And look, we'll see how that unfolds, right? I mean, it's only been a few weeks and, we'll see how they want to handle things moving forward. But I think that was the biggest concern, at least externally from everybody, was like, what is the starting pitching going to do? And so far it's been one of the strongest points of the team. They're the only team in Major League Baseball hadn't lost a series yet. Now, obviously I understand we're recording this on a rubber game, so they could lose to Miami tonight, but, no,
it's on producer Victoria's board at her desk as the fun fact of the week.
No doubt. Yeah, exactly.
Don't jinx us, Victoria.
Exactly.
Yeah, those are 2 good ones.
Yeah, they're just playing really well. And here's the other thing too, and I think, we almost kind of have to adjust kind of like the way we think about a Major League Baseball season, but with 12 teams getting in the playoffs, there aren't many teams come like July 1 who are quote unquote out of it. And so I think most, I don't want to put words in Alex's mouth, but just from a general standpoint, you hear from a lot of, decision makers, baseball executives about how like, these first 3 months, just figure out what you need. And then when you can go get it at the trade deadline and you're still going to be in the mix. Like there's just, this team is too talented, in my opinion, to think that on July 1, they're not going to be in playoff position or certainly within reach of it. And, I think that's important to remember, too, that, like, whatever deficiencies you feel like this team might have, they still can be addressed in 3 months. Like, the season is so long. So, right now they're winning games. Everybody looks good, and we'll just kind of monitor, see how things unfold, who gets hurt, and, what continues. But, I think, and then selfishly, I got to throw a shout out. Mauricio Dubon's, like, my guy. I love that dude. He's funny, man. He's funny. He's hitting really well.
Yep.
And, he's kind of got an edge to him. And I think that's the other thing, too. Like, Walt brings that.
Yep.
Mauricio brings that, and I think Braves Country's kind of appreciated that there's like a little bit of a. I think everybody's kind of a little irritated with how the last 2 years have gone inside the clubhouse. So I think that edge is back for sure.
One interesting, well, maybe not interesting part of your job, but you spend a lot of time in that camera well with Victoria.
I do.
Victoria, like, come pop your head and say hi.
Yeah, Victoria, come over here.
We keep saying we need to mic her up.
Yeah.
Producer Victoria, everybody.
So everyone who's out there listening, Victoria and Wiley spend a lot of time together. So Wiley, this is your time to tell on Victoria. Does she have any weird quirks down there? We're gonna call her out a little bit.
What do you do down there?
Well, I'm actually.
She's holding a hot dog for you.
No doubt.
Or
No,
you're
yeah, you might
switching
remember.
food.
You might remember her from famous moments like holding the microphone in Miami while I ate ribs, or her birthday celebration a couple weeks ago when she traded me a bag of pretzels for Kit Kats. No, what I'm actually curious to see is, the Florida Panthers have had a terrific run. They've won back-to-back Stanley Cups. They will not be in the playoffs this year, so I'm excited to see her 100% focused on the Braves instead of trying to keep the eyes on the Panthers. So
don't worry, Victoria. We're gonna mic you up next episode, and you'll get your chance to come back.
So there's nothing. I mean, she's got nothing on me. I don't do anything embarrassing.
No, never. So it's like, what do they talk about, especially when it's like a slow game? Is it just like quiet down there? Do you just like try and kill? Like, what are you doing this
Honestly,
weekend?
It's a lot of sarcasm from yours truly, and a lot of eye rolls from both her and
Anna Paula, who's our Sanchez, co-producer here today.
Yeah, I mean.
So are you in there too? Okay.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Because you're on camera and Victoria like knows she's about to be in the shot, and she'll like slowly, like she's so sweet and kind that she's like, I don't want attention, and Wiley's like, here I am.
Yeah, Victoria, hey, come over here.
We're peeling back the curtain a little bit.
Yeah.
No, I mean, again, I think that they now, like my mother, are like, this guy just can't turn it off. Like it's exhausting.
I do like that your voice is the same whether you're on TV or just chit-chatting right here.
Yeah.
I feel like my voice changes.
Oh, really?
I
said
think
that
so.
before. Yeah.
I think it becomes a little more like, okay, now we're on. Where I feel like you and Ben especially, I hear it so much from like, there is literally no difference. And I think it's awesome.
Well, no, I mean, Ben, that guy's voice is unbelievable.
I mean, he's a legend.
It's incredible.
It's legendary.
It's a legendary. And I think, people ask me, do you change your voice at all and those types of, I think I try and speak more like deliberately and directly and like communicate better. Like I think anybody's going to get up and give a public presentation, you're going to adjust the way you speak a little bit. But as far as, the tone or pitch or those types of things, I haven't had any formal voice coach training. I've talked about it. I mean, I've had some conversations about things you try to think about when you're on stage or on stage when you're singing.
On stage,
like honestly,
in front
more
of the camera when the light's on.
100%. I mean, most of it. I mean, honestly, a lot of the breathing stuff just goes back to like when you're in choir or singing or any of that. So in a lot of ways, I feel like I've kind of been doing that for a long, long time.
So one more question, and then we're going to shift into a little rapid fire game.
I love rapid fire.
We have got to talk. Well, first of all, we should have mentioned this from the beginning. New City Connect jerseys, baby. We have not acknowledged City Connect.
They're
I
awesome.
love the first iteration, but I really love the second. So stop by the Braves Clubhouse store. So we got a really great selection. We'll get you in and out quickly. Really helpful staff. Like, I think the fan sentiment has been really positive and exciting.
Everyone's loving them.
So definitely do that. And then that kind of leads us into another big priority that we have in the month of April here at Truist Park, and that is the induction of Brian Snitker into the Braves Hall of Fame. So we are going to give him a very appropriate celebration on Saturday, the 25th, against the Phillies. We had a meeting about it this morning, and it's going to be star-studded in terms of the other Braves Hall of Famers that are coming back. People are going to have speaking parts. We're going to set up a big stage, do a big pregame ceremony recognizing him. You're going to hear from names that you know and love.
Can you throw me some tickets now that I don't work game days anymore,
I got
Jori?
you, girl. I got you, girl.
Maybe won't be here yet.
Maybe we'll put you in the camera well to just, keep them.
I can join the little camera well family.
But thinking back, like obviously Snit has been in this organization for over 40 years. He won this organization a world championship. So as you look back, like you said you started in like 2012, 13, like those were some tough years for this organization. And then to see it come full circle and just seeing Snit's role, like what are your thoughts on his legacy and what's your relationship like with him?
Well, I guess, I know Mark Bowman did Historic. It was a couple of Mother's Days ago. Ronnie obviously had cancer, and my dad treated her, especially the outstart.
Oh, I didn't know
What
that.
a small world.
That's
My
great.
goodness.
Yeah,
Wow.
so my dad has known Snit for a long time. I had never met Snit until 2000, like the end of the 2023 season. Because it was like, I didn't have a lot of FaceTime with anybody in uniform for like the first 12, 13 years I was here. So, I'm, again, thrilled to be here or whatnot, but I wasn't just going to like pop out, hey, Snit, I'm the Braves press box cashier, and my father treated your wife with cancer.
That's
Hope
always
she's doing
such,
you know what I'm saying?
like such an awkward,
Yeah,
like, how
so
do
like,
you...
and I was like, I'll be able to have that moment or let him know kind of the small world whenever that, whenever it's time. And so at the end of the 2023 season, it was pretty unreal. And it's funny, like I tell my dad all the time, like my dad's my hero, and I think I'm not doing any of this without him. And so again, to focus more on Snit now, like I think the thing that sticks with me about Snit, and you were asking earlier, like, how do you remain patient, or like, how do you like focus on where your feet are and all those things? Like, if anybody wants to complain about like, oh, I haven't gotten this opportunity, or, oh, I think I should be, like, just talk to Snit and you can just keep your mouth shut. Cause like, you want to talk about a guy who, there aren't many routes that took longer than his to get a lot of the quote unquote recognition, large successes than Snit. And I think that's a testament to how much he loves baseball. I mean, again, the guy is, I got to go check, but I think he got the job at what, like 60-ish? Like, he'd had a whole career and a whole life in baseball
When you
before
put
any
it
of
like
that. That's what I'm saying,
he did not get his dream job until he was 60 years old.
And quite honestly, he's and again, I'm not sharing anything that he hadn't said himself, but like he felt like it was all right, well, not going to happen. I mean, especially after I think it was after the 2010 season, after Bobby retired. Obviously he and a lot of people had interest in that job. They went with Freddie Gonzalez, different candidate, and Snit not only wasn't going to be the manager, but he was, as he put it, recycled, and put back in AAA for 6 years. And so again, he had lived a whole baseball life, had a whole reputation inside the game, but from a public standpoint was, relatively anonymous, especially outside of Braves country. And then, it's amazing how, whether you want to call it God, life, whatever you want to describe, just how it unfolded for him and Ronnie. And he even addressed it in the moment, being like, it's kind of funny. All this stuff has kind of happened here at the very end for us. And it's been really cool. So, I look at Snit as somebody who put baseball above himself in every aspect of what he did. And I think the biggest testament to anybody about Snit is the way his players talk about him. I mean, whether you listen to Jeff Francoeur, Brian McCann, obviously Chipper knew him in the organization. Like, the guy is revered because he, like Bobby Cox, he's just a really, really good leader and reliable, manager from an emotional and relationship standpoint. And I think there are so many people who excel at so many different areas of baseball when it comes to coaching or tactical or any of those things. And I think Snit was elite at all those things. But I think what really separated him was the way he was able to build relationships with people and build trust. And he had a lot of equity because everybody knew, this dude's been in the game 40 years. He's not in it for the glory, because if he was, he'd been gone a long time ago. And I think that gives him a lot of credibility. So for me, I think it's that April 25th game is going to be a celebration, not just of what Snit accomplished, personally and his tenure of the organization, but really, to me, his story is one of values and persistence and integrity that I think all of us try and aspire to in our lives. And that, to me, is always what Snit has meant. Nobody set a better example in this organization for, being putting others first and showing up and, again, doing the right thing, and no matter what you're asked to do. And yeah, like I said, I go back to integrity and reliability and consistency, and I think Snit's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, that was well really said. Beautifully put. And if you're working sidelines for that game, then that's going to be your open. Yeah. I've already written it for you. You're welcome.
Honestly, did you record it? We can just run it back.
Yeah.
Previously on Braves Country Convos.
That's hilarious.
Toss it to that.
But I mean, if you're listening or watching, we would love to have you here at that game. It's going to be extremely special. If you can't make it, at least tune in. I hope I'm not wrong, but I think the pregame show is going to be a full hour that night to be able to show the ceremony and give Snit his due. So tune in.
Is it a Friday or Saturday?
It's a Saturday.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Friday is Star Wars night, so also going to be fun. So tune in or come regardless.
Star Wars night is pretty crazy.
You're going to go from I don't know, Lord knows what we'll see you dressed up as, and then the next day it's very reverent for Brian Snitker.
I got to that Friday is Apple Television.
Oh, shoot.
So it will not be our game.
So
we will have the game set. We'll watch it. No,
just
watch
come.
it. Tune
just
in,
come
baby.
instead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you act like I'm not wearing Star Wars gear just on TV.
You
think I need a television broadcast wear Star Wars gear?
I know you probably have a lightsaber, too,
I went to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, you're a nerd.
This night was made for you.
Absolutely. I'm a modern-day Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, funny story. My roommates in college, because my name's Jori, and then sometimes it turned into Jor, and then Jor, and then Jor Binks, and then it just turned into Binks. And sometimes they'll still call me that.
I like it.
Because of Jar Jar Binks.
That's phenomenal. I had some uncles who were right in that prime age of when Star Wars was first getting big, and I'll be honest, I don't think I would like Star Wars if I hadn't been introduced to it before I was 8 years old, but it kind of got grandfathered in because I'm actually shockingly not a huge fantasy sci-fi guy. But Star Wars gets the exception because I was 6 and I was this is the most important thing that's ever happened in human history. And then you find out it's actually in the future. No, it is in the past, but yeah, it's a long, long time. Anyway,
and it's not even real.
And it's not real.
Yeah.
And then I was next thing you're going to tell me is Rocky Balboa is not real. So anyway, there was a loss of innocence there for young Wiley.
My Star Wars knowledge is I remember the big monster guy, and then Princess Leia was the little
You talking about Jabba the Hutt?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my
guy. And then
guy.
Princess Leia had like the crazy bikini outfit
Yep.
that I thought was
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
And
That's all you got.
the little teddy bear guys.
The Ewoks.
Ewoks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Love
mine.
the Ewoks.
They're cute.
They're adorable.
Yeah.
There was a whole
So
separate.
if you don't really know a lot about Star Wars out there, don't feel bad. I don't either.
If you want more Ewoks, they actually did an animated television series on the Ewoks,
Cute.
which I'm pretty sure like was
Is that
never
like on
actually
Disney
aired.
Plus or something?
No, I don't know where it came from, but you got to be pretty sick about Star Wars to even know about that. So go check it out.
Oh, that's funny. All right, let's go to some rapid fire questions. Favorite ballpark besides Truist Park?
I get this question all the time, and like I like to just take Fenway and Wrigley and put them over here because I think it's just a totally different deal.
If it's a historical
That's what I'm saying.
landmark,
Yeah,
it's
like,
in
it's
its
a
own
different deal.
category.
And then because you said ballpark, you didn't say Major League Ballpark. I got to throw a little love to McNeese Baseball Park, Georgia Tech. Spent a lot of time down there. Okay, did that.
Okay. I see. Yeah. All
I'll
right,
be
allow
honest.
it.
PNC Park is a popular answer, because the Roberto Clemente Bridge and kind of the scenic view there, and then the other one I'll throw in there. I thought St. Louis does a phenomenal job of displaying their history. It's really the only place I feel like that's similar to the Braves that really does like prioritizes their history being on display where you can revisit it. So and again, as we talked about, I like baseball history, so that one was really cool to me.
Most unique ballpark food you've ever tried on air?
Unique? I would say in Toronto they had French fries with cotton candy and like a poutine
That's disgusting.
mayo aioli,
That's gross.
and it
yeah.
was the worst thing I've ever eaten.
Did you act like you liked it?
No,
Oh.
I lit them up.
Did you find anyone there that does like it?
No,
Yeah, that's okay.
no, I did not.
No,
That's
that,
yuck.
that one needs to go away.
That was awful, and I'm sorry, but
Sorry, not sorry.
I'm not sorry. That thing was it was gross.
That sounds disgusting.
So, yeah.
Favorite player growing up? Lauren, you wrote this question.
Oh.
Baseball player or like athlete?
Ooh, I don't know.
It might be the same answer regardless.
Okay. Let's
Okay.
hear it.
Martin Prado.
Oh, Martin
Easy.
Prado.
And it's funny. I think they got a little Mauricio Dubon's got a little Martin Prado in him, I think. But no, Prado's my guy. I had the jersey, and I'll never forget the night he hit a walk-off against the Phillies. I think it was the Phillies, but like that was like the last night he didn't start, and then he took over the starter's job for the next 4 years. Or I think
yeah,
it was.
and
So.
good utility guy too.
Yeah,
Like, could
100%.
be an outfield, third base,
no,
wherever.
I mean, Martin and Omar Infante. I always wanted somebody to make a T-shirt that said "To Infante and Beyond," but oh well.
Not
There's
too
still
late to make
time.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Current Brave that you think is the funniest?
Whew, my first thought was Pierce Johnson, but he's no longer here. Pierce is funny.
Oh, Pierce is awesome.
We
miss you,
Yeah, let
Pierce.
me run through the funniest. Again, I just have my mental
Or
block
maybe
is
someone
Pierce.
who you feel like you're really connecting with right now, or
along
along those lines.
Look, I mean, it's hard not to like Bryce Elder. Yeah, I think look, I'm a big snow skier. That's like my favorite thing to do. And he has snow skied in the past, not currently, obviously. You're a Major League Baseball player. You got to hang those skis up for a little while. So we've had some good conversations about that. You know what? I'm going to go with Schwelly, though. I gave Bryce
Okay.
I think Schwelly's quick wit.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, it almost feels like things are moving at like half speed for him because he's able to kind of, he's got a really good pulse on what's going down. So I put Schwelly. I think Schwelly's the sneak. Some guys have sneaky pop. I think he's got sneaky humor.
Nice.
I like it.
Most challenging sport to call play-by-play?
Hockey.
Really? Why?
That thing is so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell who's who down there. Like, basketball's fast, but you got faces, you're close, there's only like 8 guys. Again, I think anybody will tell you hockey.
Now that you say that, they don't have numbers on their jerseys.
No, they
do.
do,
Oh,
but
they
like
do.
sometimes it's like
Or their
bunched up in the
sweater.
back.
Yeah, jerseys
She
are called
just informed
sweaters,
me
right?
this.
Yes.
Okay,
I
because
don't
I
think
said
anyone's
that
getting mad at you
earlier,
for saying jersey,
and Jori's
but-
looking at me because I was talking about the Drake
Yes.
Baldwin
Yes.
hockey
Yes.
sweater giveaway,
Yes.
which is going to be so sick. And Jori's like, "You mean jersey?" I'm like, "No, I mean
No.
sweater."
It's like pregnancy,
Yeah.
right? Who calls it a sweater?
Yeah.
You're like, it's called a sweater.
And I've
I
got
had
like
no
second
idea.
guessing myself.
I've gotten a lot of grief because we'll talk about hockey on the air sometimes, and I'll like say ice hockey. And everybody's like, everybody knows it's ice hockey, dude. Like, you don't just say ice hockey. I'm like, well, I'm from Atlanta where we played roller hockey, so there was a distinction. And I was gonna get crushed if I said I played hockey, but it was only roller. So I say ice hockey.
What do you know about Atlanta getting an NHL team?
But nothing. I know nothing. I hope so. I obviously I hope so. But we'll see. I do think it's funny that the entire pre and post game show for TNT is in Atlanta.
Yeah,
Atlanta's
it's got to
It's
happen.
one of the top 10 markets in the country from a size television market standpoint.
Yeah,
So
you're right.
if I was running a professional sports league, I think it'd be wise to have a team in a top 10 market where your studio show is anchored. But that's just,
Yeah.
you know,
Who knows?
I eat
Maybe
Kit
that
Kats.
team
I eat
will
Kit
need
Kats,
a
so.
play-by-play announcer
Who
one
knows?
day.
We'll see.
I want
It
them
would
to put it in
dovetail right
Alpharetta.
with baseball
I
and
live
hockey.
20 minutes away. My husband and I are already like putting a savings account together for like season tickets. Like we've got to have season tickets for
Yeah,
the
those are
hockey.
fun games.
Most random thing a fan has asked you to do or asked you for.
I mean, I've signed a lot of Kit Kats the last week.
Really?
It's hilarious.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
People ask you to sign their Kit Kat.
100%. No, it's hilarious. And let me tell
You've
you
made
something.
it, Wiley.
As somebody who never played a varsity sport, my autograph is terrible. I was like, never want, like, me, I don't know. I'll just write my name and scribbly cursive. It's embarrassing. I got to work on that.
You gotta practice.
I really do. It's bad. I'm like, yeah, it's every autograph I sign looks different. So that's probably not good. But, yeah, I think that's up there. I'm trying to think anything else that jumped. I mean, again, that's probably the biggest one is signing Kit Kats.
That's unique.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was that lady who made like a fat head of me. We had to go out there last year.
That's fun.
She just wanted a photo of you and the fat head?
Pretty
Okay.
much, yeah. So
Okay.
that was kind of wild. But,
You are very loved by Braves Country.
You are.
well, you know, I love Braves Country back, and I'm of it. I mean, again, I'm of it. Like this is gonna be funny. I went to opening day in 2010, Hayward Homer. That was the first time I started using Braves Country, and I remember like walking in there like, that's brilliant, Braves Country. Like I think that's right. Somebody probably in the organization
No,
who was there. Is that timing right?
My trainee year was 2011, and
Yeah.
it was kind of on the outfield wall. This
Yeah.
is Braves Country.
Like that, I think it started right around 10, 11. I
It
remember,
did.
I swear, I have this memory of walking into Turner Field 2010 opening day, and it was like, welcome, like everybody's like, it's their kind of launch, like, welcome to Braves Country, Braves Country. I'm like, that is so
It's
smart.
unique.
Jori,
Yeah.
your marketing brain is so happy right now.
So
Absolutely.
we brought it
Yeah,
back.
sorry.
So
Yeah.
now we are Braves
We are
Country.
Braves Country.
Inclusive.
No
You know,
doubt.
we are.
Yeah.
All right, last question as we wrap up is something we ask all of our fans. Now that I kind of know your answer, you're not going to be invited to my book club, but what is my fantasy book club?
Okay.
We're meeting again on Saturday, guys. It's really
She's got-
exciting.
Yeah, be-
Jori's got some interesting, book stuff going on.
Whatever, Lauren. What are you like? You know, currently, or maybe not currently, but maybe what is off season, Wiley? Kind of watching or reading or keeping up with, and then in season, is there anything that you do to kind of get the
away,
baseball
yeah.
off the brain?
Yeah. All right. Off season, a lot of snow skiing. That's my favorite thing to do. I tell people I like work every day for like 7 months so I can ski for like a concentrated month. Like I basically, it's like if you look at my bank account, it's like, all right, so April, May, July, October, and then ski season comes and goes. Woof.
Where's
And then
your
we force
go-to
for the
spot?
My aunt, the reason I got into it, I'm from Atlanta, obviously, but my dad's sister, his only sibling, lived in Montana my entire youth and adolescence. So we go to Big Sky all the time. And
Gosh, that's on my bucket
so, yeah,
list.
a lot of nostalgia there for sure. So Montana, big time. I'll watch a fair number of movies. Try and catch up on like whatever was good, you know,
Mhm.
Oscar season wise. And then reading, I bounce around a lot. I recently read The Prayer of Owen Meany. Really good. Or Prayer for Owen Meany. I really
Is that
paid
fiction
attention.
or nonfiction?
Fiction. I
Okay.
try to read a lot of fiction, quite honestly.
Okay.
Now, on the flip side, I also just finished a book that was 300 pages on the 1957 baseball season.
How was that?
So it was good. Braves won the World Series that year.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
That
it
is.
is,
Yeah,
it
we
is.
have a
But it
conference
was a
room
gift.
named
It was
after
called
that.
the Sputnik season, and it was, I mean, again, like we've talked about, like baseball is bigger than the field. It was before the last year the Giants and Dodgers were in New York. It was before expansion, and you know, it was interesting. I learned a few things. The other stuff I love to read is like things based in the Arctic. Like I recently read The Terror, which is like historical fiction, and it's like they were trying to find the Northwest Passage like through Canada, and like it's a famous expedition that went horribly wrong. But the difference in the book is like it's kind of an unknown mystery as to what happened to all of them. But so in the book they come up with what happened to them, and I don't want to spoil it, but like there's some, I guess I'll say, abominable snowman type of flair.
Oh, dear.
So I'm all over the board. So I really try. I
like
actually
that.
try and read more fiction than nonfiction. Reading a short story book right now, 10th of December by George Saunders. That's really good. So
Awesome.
yeah, and then in season, try and play some golf. Not great, but enjoy it. And yeah, golf is probably the biggest one. There's not a lot of time without
Yeah.
Braves baseball,
Yeah.
which is fine. Clearly that's where I want to be, so
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
I was fully expecting you to be like, no, baseball. I
Yeah,
only
exactly.
love baseball. Nothing
I
else.
rewatched
Baseball,
I rewatched
baseball.
the game from last night.
Oh, I would judge you
Yeah,
so hard.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Well, Wiley, thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it. We're looking forward to having you. You're back this upcoming
Friday.
series, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Phillies
Yep.
Awesome.
All right.
going into the enemy territory.
That's
So we'll
right.
see how
Good
that
luck,
goes.
my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll wear a helmet. So, but no, thanks, guy. This has been really fun for me, really cool. And I mean, like you said, I'm a big fan of Braves Country and feel, that's where all this started. And yeah, I'm just really thrilled to be a part of it still.
Woo.
Thanks.
Awesome.